The Louisiana Supreme Court vacates Kayla Giles' murder conviction. We've got a quick summary of the entire saga coming your way. Stay tuned. This is attorneys Andy Marcantel and Marc J. Victor from the Attorneys for Freedom Law Firm here today to talk about the next chapter in an exciting saga. How you doing, Marc?
Wow, what an epic saga, and actually a huge piece of good news today, Andy.
Yes, absolutely. And this has been going on for years now, and we've been very tuned into this case for the last couple of years. People who have been following our channel know that we can't stop talking about this case because ever since you and I saw it, we both said, this looks defensible to us.
Yeah, we thought something's not right here. This whole thing was brought to our attention. Somebody emailed us and said, hey, look, USCCA had a platinum member of their program who was actually just involved in a self-defense incident. And after paying the lawyer $50,000, inexplicably, USCCA just simply dropped her case. I thought, that can't be right. So we investigated.
That's right. Yeah. And we called her trial attorney who USCCA had originally hired. And he seemed to be a very good attorney to us. He's handled a ton of self-defense cases, got over 30 years of practice. And he told us, I'm just as confused as you guys are why USCCA yanked the rug out from under us.
Yeah, his exact words were, this was one of the most defensible self-defense cases I've ever had in my career. That got our attention. So, we wanting to do our due diligence. What did we do, Andy? We actually had a conversation with Kayla Giles. We got the entire court file. We reviewed that. That still left us with questions about why USCCA decided to drop Kayla Giles. So we wrote USCCA a very detailed letter asking them questions. What happened?
Yeah, we also talked to her appellate counsel because by the time you and I found out about this case, she had already been convicted at trial, having had the funding from USCCA pulled away from her before she was convicted, while she was still presumed innocent. And so we called the appellate attorney to say, okay, are you seeing the same issues that we see here?
Yeah. So after all of that, do you remember what USCCA's response to our inquiries and asking questions was?
Yes. They released a video, I think it was called They Are Lying to You. And the purpose of this video was to justify to the public why they had chosen to disclaim liability for Kayla Giles and cease funding. And they, of course, were getting a massive backlash from the entire community at
Understandably
that
so.
point. Totally. And so they wanted to release a video to justify their position. And in that video, they said some pretty crazy things.
Yeah, they really dragged their own member through the mud. And Tim Schmidt himself came out and made some pretty bold statements in that video.
Now, we had shown clips of his statements from that video on our channel before, and USCCA did not like us sharing those clips, and so they sent us a cease and desist letter. But of course, we still have the video, so I'm going to quote it right now. In that video, Tim Schmidt said, quote, "There was a time when it became very, very clear, and I mean perfectly clear, that a member had committed premeditated murder," end quote.
Now, what a ridiculous statement this was. This wasn't even clear to the prosecutor because that wasn't the charge that went to trial. Even the prosecutor didn't believe it was premeditated first-degree murder. That's why they brought a second-degree murder charge, not first-degree.
That's right. Also in that video, they stated that the evidence overwhelmingly demonstrated that this was a case of premeditated murder.
Yeah, overwhelming evidence? Are you kidding? I mean, it was our opinion after reviewing that file, talking to Kayla, talking to her trial lawyer, talking to her appellate lawyer, that this was certainly a defensible case of self-defense. There was no question that there was a good argument here that this was self-defense. And really the only position we were taking is she should have been defended. That was really our position from the very beginning. We made it very clear, had she been an AOR member, we absolutely would have been very proud to defend her in this case and take it to trial if need be.
But USCCA wasn't done with their response at that point. Their influencers all started defaming AOR and defaming Kayla Giles, saying, oh, yeah, this is premeditated murder. And then they started making up lies about our company.
They started making up lies. They were saying I was anti-gun, anti-2A, just complete garbage, defamatory stuff. Of course, we responded like we always did. We put out a very long video defending in great detail exactly what our views are as to the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. We then put out a short version. I then wrote a 20-plus page article on exactly what my views are because I didn't want to be misunderstood. Of course, that'll all be linked in this video so people can find out for themselves exactly what my views are on the Second Amendment.
And the campaign to erase this whole statement of theirs continued when they started sending cease and desist letters to all of our influencers. The people who promote AOR received nasty letters in the mail, threatening them with legal action if they didn't remove the clip of Tim Schmidt saying all of these things. And all the while, they quietly removed that clip from the internet. If you search YouTube or the internet for this quote from Tim Schmidt from USCCA, you ain't gonna find it.
Yeah, that was right around the time, as I recall, that the case was being argued at the Louisiana Supreme Court. And the justices started making some noises that they didn't think the evidence was overwhelmingly clear of even second-degree murder.
Somebody comes and opens my door of my vehicle, I may shoot them too.
Yeah, if you want a good understanding of what the issues were with this case and what went wrong at trial, people really should watch our full analysis of the oral argument video, where the justices pretty clearly are sympathetic to Kayla's position.
So, of course, the very worst thing that could have happened to USCCA happened. The Louisiana Supreme Court just entirely vacated Kayla Giles's second-degree murder conviction.
Yes, in their opinion, they found that two errors had occurred, both of which that were argued by the appellate counsel. First of all, there was a jury instruction that was given that shouldn't have been given. And second of all, there was a jury instruction that should have been given that wasn't. So bottom line is, she didn't get a fair trial here.
Yeah, as to the jury instruction that was erroneously given, it laid out to the jury that they could find that Kayla was the aggressor, and if they found that Kayla was the aggressor, they should completely disregard the defense of self-defense. But interestingly, in the opinion, the Louisiana Supreme Court literally made a finding that there was no evidence, no evidence that Kayla Giles was the aggressor, and therefore that instruction should never have been given.
Even better for her is the jury instruction that was not given to the jury that the Louisiana Supreme Court has instructed any retrial to include. And that is, under Louisiana's stand your ground law, because this person was making an unlawful entrance into her vehicle at the time when she shot, she is entitled legally to a presumption of reasonableness. The jury is required by law to start with a presumption that she acted reasonably when she defended herself.
Yeah, and there's no bigger presumption in a self-defense case than the defendant is acting reasonably. The defendant is presumed to be acting reasonably. That's about as good a presumption as you can get. She was entitled to it under Louisiana law. She wasn't given that instruction. In addition, that instruction also makes it very clear that when Kayla Giles pulled the trigger, she wasn't required under Louisiana law to be in imminent fear of death or serious physical injury, as is normally the case when you use deadly physical force. Instead, she was legally permitted to use deadly physical force to stop that unlawful entry into her vehicle, which nobody really disputed in this case. It was very clear. You could see it on the video. Kayla had entered her vehicle, closed the door, and her husband at the time then walked over to the vehicle, unlawfully opened the door. We don't know exactly what was said, what exactly happened at that moment, but it was just mere seconds later you see him fall back after being shot one time.
Yeah, when we first saw this case, both of us said, this looks extremely defensible.
Yeah.
We dove into the case and it made us even stronger in that conviction. And I am so happy to see that the Louisiana Supreme Court has now finally done the right thing. They've granted a new trial. There's a possibility the state decides not even to retry it now with these presumptions that are instructed by the Louisiana Supreme Court. And then also they have remanded the other conviction that she got for the obstruction charge back down to the circuit court, saying basically, first of all, this doesn't look like it has enough evidence to support it. And second of all, even if it does, this punishment is outrageous.
Yeah, if you read the opinion, you'll find it very clear. If you read between the lines, the Louisiana Supreme Court is certainly not convinced that there's enough evidence here for an obstruction of justice conviction, nor are they convinced that the 30-year sentence Kayla Giles received for obstruction of justice is appropriate either. So this case really got a major gut punch by the Louisiana Supreme Court. And it wasn't just this case that got a gut punch. It was the USCCA that actually deserved a gut punch for not only dropping their client in their time of need, but then trashing her on the internet, saying it was absolutely clear that she had committed premeditated first-degree murder. We can all now see how erroneous that statement was.
Absolutely. Now to talk about the thing I'm most excited to talk about, which is what happens next. As I mentioned, a new trial has been ordered at this point, and if that does move forward, you guys have been hearing us talk for a long time about how we would love to represent Kayla Giles in this case, how we believed in her case ever since we saw this video 2 years ago. And I'm happy to announce that we've spoken to Kayla. Kayla is excited to have us as her counsel in this case, and we are gonna bring it big.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we hope for Kayla's benefit that this is not retried, that they don't bring the charge back.
And we're going to take several actions ahead of time to try to convince that prosecutor that they should not retry this case.
But if they do, they are going to get all the lawyers at our firm doing the best job they can to work on this case. We will be there in the courtroom doing our best to defend her. We are going to give her the best defense possible on this case.
Not to mention all of our experts that we're bringing to bear on this case. You guys have seen us have some of them on this channel before, giving their analysis of the case. So we got a dream team ready to go for Kayla.
Yeah, we just scratched the surface of things people need to know about this case. We will be coming out with the long version that dives deep into the case and everything else that happened before this case. If you're interested, check out the extended version of what happened here. It's going to be packed with videos. We brought the receipts and the evidence of exactly what happened here. You want to know what happened in this saga? Check out our video.
All right, and go and check out attorneysonretainer.us to learn all about our self-defense program and what it can do for you. Also, check out attorneysforfreedom.com to learn all about our law firm and how we defend people in the criminal justice system. We are so excited for the next chapter in this exciting saga. We're going to do our best to get some justice for Kayla. This has been attorneys Andy Marcantel and Marc J. Victor, signing out.
Peace.